Hello and welcome to the Angelati studio. I'm joined now by Javier Alonso from Endesa. And Javier, firstly, thank you for making the time to be here. I know it's a very busy conference for you. And can you tell us a little bit about your work at Endesa? Because that'll inform some of the other questions that we're going to be talking about later on in the interview.
Good. I'm responsible for the training department in Endesa. So because we belong to the Enel group, my responsibilities are in the power and gas Spain mainly. Also some of the products, origination and structure, but basically trading. Before that, I've spent many years also doing the spot market trading and the control center, dispatching of generation. So that's more or less my background.
And with that, you're probably well placed to tell us a little bit about how that has changed. It must have changed a tremendous amount in the last few years. I mean, you're here on a panel where we're talking about the winning and losing models of the future energy trading business and so on. So drawing on that experience, why are we talking about the fact that there's a winning and losing model? What's happening?
Yeah, we're all in the mood of something is happening. So
right.
Everybody's trying to guess what. So,
right.
But undoubtedly, there are some drivers that must be important, which are the empowerment of consumers, the new technologies, battery storage, solar, photovoltaic, affordable photovoltaic panels, and that has to mean a change for the business. So and it's very interesting to be here in the conferences, discovering what the other experts think about it. Something that when we come back to the conference for the debate will be great.
Yeah. So there's this overwhelming feeling of change, like you said, driven by technology, driven by price points for technology, what we can do with technology as well. And one of the key themes that is coming out is obviously the renewable piece. And how do we integrate renewables into the market structure? I think there seems to be an overwhelming sense that renewables need to rely less on subsidy, need to be brought into the market family a little bit more. So how do you see us tackling that issue?
We have already made a good job, especially in Spain. The integration has probably is in front of what are doing.
Well, Spain's the second highest renewable after Germany,
we have
right?
27% of wind power on the energy, and the amount of energy is 27% is produced by wind. And we also have some solar, photovoltaic and thermal.
Well, you've got the weather for it, right?
We're well placed for that,
Yes.
We're well placed, So, and we made a great effort. If you look back 10, 15 years ago, the transmission system operator said that no more than 2 gigawatts could be affordable by the system. Now we have 21 gigawatts installed. And that's also because we have changed the operation practices, the market design. For example, it's a common topic to say that renewables has to be affected by the market price, has to see market signals, and that happened in Spain from 1.5 years ago.
Right.
We changed the law.
So what did you do in Spain that allowed that change to happen without the shouting and screaming that's going on elsewhere about, oh, what about my feed-in tariff,
Well, it's difficult to say. Probably the political moment was good, and the operating problems were high enough so that they have to make a decision. It doesn't mean that a politician make a decision whenever it's needed, but in this case happened.
The stars lined up, right?
Exactly.
Good.
If you look back, it was really stars lined up.
Well, sometimes you need moments like that to move forward.
To compensate for the others.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So when you're now looking at that, and you're sitting based on your experience in Spain, and then you're sitting on panels where people are talking about the integration of renewables and so on, and you see some of these other issues. Is there anything that you can bring to the table where, actually, knowing what we know now, having understood a lot of things, these are just some of the things we need to do to get renewables on a market basis?
Yeah, but it's not. The recipe is not complete. We have solved some problems. There's still some others remaining. For example, this think about the capacity payments and what will be the fundamentals of prices in the market. I don't know what will be the answer, but I think it's a problem that the answer is really fragmented by member states, by lobbying groups. I mean, we should focus, if we're aiming to have an integrated market, and we give different solutions to this main problem of design, probably it will be difficult to reach it.
Yeah, and that capacity piece is a big issue as well, isn't it? Because
sure it is.
Yeah, there was a piece I was reading about the UK capacity market, where there's an argument that is completely biased towards fossil fuels, and we're going to pay to keep coal-fired stations not firing.
Because it's about that. I mean, when you have renewables, maybe some nuclear base, but then you have renewables a lot. You need some backup capacity, but those coal plants, which are the cheapest backup capacity, is still cheaper than gas. Then you need to ensure a minimum amount of hours, of running hours. So that limits the amount of renewables you can integrate. So you have to get a trade-off. So you say, okay, you're not going to be working 3,000-4,000 hours a year, but then we will give you a capacity payment. If you do that, then you're dead, because how much capacity payment you give? This is not a market decision. If it's not a market decision, prices in the market will react to that.
But also I find it somewhat strange because, again, knowing what I know about the energy system, to balance things out, you also need high ramp power. You need stuff that you can turn on and off very quickly, which is why things like pumped hydro and stuff like that is popular.
But our experience in that is very positive. I mean, at the beginning we had those constraints, even with combined cycles. They didn't like to stop in weekends. Can you believe that? That was 10 years ago.
Right.
Not so much time. After the utilization of the combined cycles decreased to 1,500 hours a year, and coal power plants, some of them end up functioning less than 4,000 hours, which is too low for a coal power plant. They made up new things. I mean, ramps in the combined cycles and startup times, which is something more, sometimes is more important than ramps.
No, exactly, yeah.
Has reduced by 1/4 of what we had before.
Right.
Will it have an impact on the life of the power plants? We don't know yet, sincerely. But probably before this change, everybody was more worried about, will my plant survive the first 20 years? When you change your priority on that and say 20 years is enough, then you can have more aggressive operating, and this will reduce dramatically the amount of backup reserve you need. But then there's trade-off, because if you place a generous capacity payment to compensate for this lag, then the innovation on that part also declines. So,
and we can't forget about the role of technology. You know, I mean, 20 years down the road, God knows where battery technology is going to be, and that can take over some of this capacity issues that we've got as well.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
And so, moving things on, one of the other things that always comes up with renewables, again, based on price points and things like that, and I want to try and get a energy trader's perspective of this. You know, what's the role of the consumer in all of this?
It depends.
Right.
I think there are like two approaches. Some people think that consumer is going to be very, very active. But probably not directly, but through aggregators. So that there's a whole bunch of companies working on that. Probably this will happen. But at the end, I have the feeling sometimes that this is not really consumer empowerment. I mean, these are new utilities playing in the same ground with the same rules as traditional utilities are operating. And there may be some other people who really live their life. I mean, I'm a prosumer, I can go on. Occasionally I will sell something, but basically I'm falling apart. And this will be, of course, off of the wholesale market. It may affect the retail market, but nobody will care about that on the wholesale market. So which one of the two models will be best? Who knows? I don't have a guess.
And there's a lot of uncertainty in it as well, because you need the price points of PVs to get to a certain point, and another person who, another commentator made an interesting point as well, is if most of the population is going to go into cities, not all of us are going to have roofs.
It's true.
You know,
it's true.
so
it's true. No. So sometimes people are overestimating
Yeah.
probably the penetration of this kind of. But it also depends on the country, the weather, and also the what do you call that? The shape of the buildings. Basically, you can have tall houses, low houses, townhouses.
Yeah. Or they don't
apartments.
face the right way as well. So
And also there's a policy choice to make, because on one hand you have to. It's good to have renewables, it's domestic energy, etc. But it has to be at a price you can afford. So it's
and that affordability piece is huge. So, I mean, one of the other areas I want to go into as we're coming to the end of our time here, I mean, there's a panel you're sitting on, and one of the topics of debate in the panel is, can we rely on market signals?
Oh, definitely yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But not because.
But why is this question being asked? I mean, if you're going to have a market, you have to rely on the market signals. Otherwise, you don't have a market.
Because central planning is tremendously popular.
Right.
It fits mathematics.
Right.
But it failed every time you have really applied it for a long period.
Right.
So we have to rely on markets because there's no choice. So the best the market works, the more liquid, the more efficient, the best decisions you will make. You hear some people complaining, especially politicians, bad informed politicians, of course, not all of them, saying that the market is not working. But this is half the sentence. The full sentence is the market is not working as I would like to.
Yeah. And also one of those things is like a market self-regulate, but only if you leave them alone.
Markets self-regulate, but they always produce the same output, the most efficient. So you only have to deviate from the market if you want something that is not the most efficient. But you have to be aware that your decision is not the most efficient. It may be good. I want to close nuclear power plants. That's the decision. But it's not the most efficient because it leads to a higher cost of supply. So I'm not saying that energy policy has to disappear. Of course, you need energy policy anytime. But be aware that deviating from the market has a cost. And for small things like dispatching, rely on the market. No one is going to do it better.
And it likens me to one of the decisions that was made in the UK not that long ago, where a lot of time the interest rates were a political thing. Yeah. And one of the smartest moves was to depoliticize it and say that's the Bank of England's job.
Exactly.
We can be annoyed about it or happy about it, but it's their job. Isn't that the approach we need here as well?
I would like to, because it would be, I think it's a maturity of the design and the market and the industry. We're not still at that point, but...
How far away do you think we are?
Not too far, because as the problems grow, it depends. I think that the biggest risk we have now is that national politics break up the design of the internal market. If we manage to keep an internal market consistent across all countries, I'm quite sure that we will be close to do it. But the challenge is there was another panelist from the European Commission saying that they have to really be active on promoting the internal market at all levels, just preventing also domestic rules to do that. If they succeed in that, probably we will depoliticize this. Not for the big decisions, but at least for the day-to-day.
But at least for the day-to-day.
And each one has a role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Javier, unfortunately, I feel like that's the end of our time. I feel like if I were to push it on, we'd be here for another half hour. I've very much enjoyed talking to you. Thank you again for making the time, and thank you as well for watching.